Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm grading every single Premier League club season so far. If you're at the top of the table or the bottom, it's not as easy as an A or a D. It's about expectations per club. We have to start off with Manchester United. One of the worst starts they've had in their history in top flight football. They've sacked Erik ten Hag. Xerxes hasn't worked, in my opinion. Yagart could work with Ruben Amorim, of course, but it hasn't worked so far. And so many other issues, massive losses to Spurs, massive losses to Liverpool, and they're currently below Brentford and Bournemouth in the table with billions spent. It has to be a D, which will be the lowest grade in this video. Can it improve? Yes. Are they close to the top four? Yes. Do I like Ruben Amorim? Yes, I do. But at the moment, right now, absolutely shambolic. And yes, the wins against Leicester City, who everyone thinks are going to get relegated, are decent. Especially in the League Cup, which Man United could win this season, but it has to be a D. Moving on to West Ham United. This might be the worst grade of them all because they won the transfer window. They had so much goodwill around the club with David Moyes. I know it's a little bit flat in terms of performances, but maybe the greatest manager in West Ham history on some level. And they've replaced him with a guy who is remote, who feels distant to the fans, who feels a little bit up himself on some level. The West Ham fans have told me that anyway, a little bit. Maybe not pandering to the fans and connecting with the fans in the kind of West Ham way. And West Ham are struggling. They're so bad, they're even below Manchester United. I have to give these guys a D. I still don't see how West Ham can be this bad, even if Lopetegui is getting used to it, even though it's not his first time in the league. I have to give West Ham a D. Everton, you know, I think they've been decent. They could have probably beaten West Ham on the weekend. They're in and around where I expect them to be. They probably expect to be a little bit higher than maybe Leicester City at the moment. But I think by the end of the season, I think Everton will be strong. They'll be secure and they'll be in the league. And they have to be. They've got a brand new stadium coming around the corner. I just think we're not really talking about Everton in the last few weeks. I think that's actually a good thing. So I'm going to give them a C. But obviously a club like Everton shouldn't be kind of 16th really. And they kind of always are in the last few years. I have to give them a C. Southampton, one of the most irrelevant, boring, lackadaisical football clubs to ever play in the Premier League. They're bottom of the table. They've been absolutely shocking, and they're not honest with themselves to say they're not good enough to play football. Russell Martin's using it as a ticket to get a bigger job by playing Cruyff-like football at St Mary's. Have a day off. It's a D-. On to Crystal Palace, who, I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, I like Palace. I like their fans. I like Selhurst Park. I like the way they conduct business. I think Steve Parish is one of the smartest owners in the Premier League. No doubt about it. But the way that Glasner started off the season, I know they lost Elise, but a few of Glasner's signings have come in. They haven't quite worked. They're getting beat quite easily. They're not scoring nearly enough goals. The kind of Matete being a Adriano kind of revamp hasn't quite worked this season. And you have to give Palace, in my honest opinion, who are now in a relegation battle, in my opinion. They are in a relegation battle. The fact that the likes of Ipswich have picked up their first win of the season is heaping huge pressure on Crystal Palace. You have to give them a D as well. Leicester City are doing all right, 15th. The performances have been, I think, flat. I don't think there are that many players that can get excited for Leicester City fans. Fatawu is one of them. I'm a big fan of Fatawu. But the fact that Jordan Ayew's still kicking about and doing stuff for them, I mean, with all due respect, I know they haven't got the masses of money that they used to have to be able to invest, but I think they're doing all right. I'm going to give them a C. I think they've got a decent chance of staying up. I like Cooper a lot. Wolves, oh, this is bad. They're still scoring a lot of goals, to be fair to them. For all the sides in the bottom half of the table, they're outscoring most of them. Defensively, I can't quite believe it. And sometimes in football, sometimes maybe if Wolves had finished the last season strong and nearly getting relegated, but they fought their way out of it, I think they would have started this season a lot stronger. But it was almost at this point last season where Wolves kind of guaranteed their safety. They almost did a Nottingham Forest this season. Not as good as Nottingham Forest are doing this season, but they did enough by Christmas. You knew they weren't getting relegated. And you feel that maybe it allowed them so much time to kind of rest and kind of be a little bit complacent. I think that's the word for Wolves, complacency. And whatever you say about Nuno Espirito Santo when he was there, even Lopetegui for a bit as well, they were never complacent. They were aggressive. They were defensive, hard to beat. This Wolves side feel a little bit easy to play against, defensively speaking. They still got one of the best keepers in the league. I like their back four. I like Jose Sarr a lot. I like their midfield. I think Wolves are good enough to get out of it. But you look at the rest of the... Bournemouth are outperforming themselves. Brentford are outperforming. Nottingham Forest are never getting relegated this season. Wolves could get relegated by default because there's just no one else who can get relegated because there's so many sides that are doing well. You think West Ham, Man United are all going to climb the table. It puts a lot of pressure on Palace. That's why they got a D, and Wolves as well. Wolves have to get a D. I'm so sorry, lads. Fulham, wow. I want to give them an A. Emil Smith-Rowe is a A star. It's a bonus grade for their homework. It is outrageous. Emil Smith-Rowe is making all of Fulham, every player at Fulham, better. He links up play. He's the glue. Fulham are just outside European positions, just below Brighton. And Brighton are picking up wins against Man City. They're picking up wins and big results against Arsenal and Spurs. So they're doing it exceptionally well. They're going right under the radar, Fulham. We don't talk about Fulham in the same way we do as Brighton or even Brentford. I'm not sure why, but they're very, very well supported and they're doing very, very well. They're 7th. You have to give Fulham an A. We're moving on to Liverpool. They're top of the table. They've lost one game all season. They got the most electrifying front three in the world. It's been slightly tweaked by Arne Slot. The whole Liverpool system's been tweaked by Arne Slot. They look like a side that could just go on. And it doesn't matter if City find some unbelievable quality down the back of the sofa. They're almost accruing so many points that it's getting... they're 9 points clear of Arsenal. Who would have thought that 12 months ago? No one. Well, maybe not 12 months, maybe 6 months, maybe when Klopp left, there was this anticipation of a meltdown, and Liverpool have completely gone above and beyond. Even if Liverpool comes second or third now, I think it's been a fantastic start to life for Arne Slot, and it says a lot, I think, about how good Arne Slot is as a manager. I have to give Liverpool a big fat A+. They've been absolutely exceptional. Bournemouth, obviously they've picked up famous wins against City. The first time they've ever beaten Man City, the Premier League holders, in over 20 appearances, beating Arsenal. But they're just below and just around Manchester United. The result on the weekend for Bournemouth would be a little bit of a struggle for them as well. So maybe they're not beating the sides around them a little bit as much as they would want. But Semenyu's been fantastic. They've got a very, very good energy at Bournemouth. They're going to stay in the league. I just think if you beat Man City and Arsenal, you'd want to be beating a few more sides around you. And can Bournemouth be in that top 10 position? Maybe I'm being really harsh. I'll give them an A, but it'll be an A- for me. But Bournemouth have been absolutely fantastic all season. And I just look at the table and I think 12th. Could it be higher? They could if they finish strong, especially with Solanke leaving. They've done so well. Nottingham Forest, how the hell are they 5th? At points in the weekend, they were, third? Obviously, they lost on the weekend quite convincingly to Newcastle United. But it doesn't matter. Even if Forest came 9th, which, they could still come 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, I think they'd be great seasons. I thought they'd get relegated. I think they've been stinking the gaff out for many, many years in the sense that they've been lingering around relegation. Morgan Gibbs-White pulls them out of a situation. Callum Hudson-Odoi, Steve Cooper pulls some magic. But this season, they've taken the league by the scruff of the neck. They're hard to play against, hard to score against, and Chris Wood's been fantastic. You have to give Nottingham Forest an A. It's an argument. It's the best season domestically they've had in close to 40 years. These are facts, because they got relegated with Clough, and they've not been back up since. That's close to 40 years, 30, 40 years. They're 5th. They're in the Europa League positions. Nottingham Forest. Fair play. Aston Villa, this is an interesting one. They're 9th, but only a few points off the top 4. They started the season so strong. They kept that kind of 4th position. They beat Bayern Munich. They were doing so well in the Champions League. The Spurs result was poor, and a few other results in and around the last few weeks have been a little bit poor. I think it says a little bit about a few injuries and the squad being stretched just a little bit. But the fact that they're still above Tottenham, they're still above Manchester United, and I still think they're competitive to be a top 4 side. I'm going to give Aston Villa a B, because they started the season so strong. They really did. Brighton, I'm going to give these guys, I have to give them an A. They're 6th. Again, every season they're losing their manager, they're losing their best players, and the system transcends whatever manager's in there. I couldn't believe they'd improve after De Zerbi, and I feel like Hertz has brought in a lot more balance. I love Rutter from Leeds United. He's been absolutely electric. Matoma's come back a bit like having a renaissance season compared to the first season. I think last season, obviously, he had a few injuries. But he's come back to that level. He destroyed Manchester City. They picked up a big Man City win as well. They've been fantastic. They've done well against Spurs. They've done well against Manchester United as well, of course. Great side. They play beautiful football. Danny Welbeck as well. It's just electric at Brighton. I can't believe I'm ever saying that, really. I have to give Brighton an A. I mean, I'll be crazy not to, right? If you watch so far, make sure you subscribe to the channel, by the way. Would really appreciate it. And leave your comments down below. We're moving on to Chelsea. Third in the Champions League spots. Loads of money spent, so I can't give them the top grade because there's an argument they should be a little bit further ahead of where they are. On the pitch, should they be beating Manchester United? Should they be beating Arsenal? I'm not so sure about the Arsenal one, but Manchester United felt like an opportunity. Palmer's felt flat in the last 4 weeks, but for them to be in the top 3 is a massive achievement of Enzo Maresca at this level. I'm going to give them a B+. Maybe that's harsh. Right, Kieran McKenna picked up his first win with Ipswich. They're sitting just above the relegation zone. I actually would have liked a little bit more. I think the playing squad from Ipswich has been very, very well balanced and lots of signings in the summer. I know it's got a very championship kind of foundation, but I would have expected a touch more. Maybe just one more win, couple more draws from this Ipswich side, but it started off horribly. Liverpool, Man City in the first few weeks. I'm going to give them a C. It's not a D because I think if they stay out of the relegation zone from now, if the league finishes now, Ipswich is safe. And last season, all the clubs that got promoted got relegated. So if Ipswich can stay in the league, it has to be an A+. But for right now, it is a C. Spurs, 10th. Win, lose. Get absolutely destroyed by Ipswich. Embarrassingly so. Palace beat Villa convincingly. I just don't know what to say about Spurs. It's a little bit poor in terms of they should be picking up wins and making opportunities while Arsenal are a little bit flat, while City are a little bit flat. If they're a serious side that want to get back in the Champions League, you have to make up ground on your rivals when they're rubbish. You have to capitalise, and they've not been able to do that. So for me, Spurs, they get a C. Newcastle United, 8th in the table. It's an unbelievable couple of seasons for Eddie Howe, in my opinion. This one feels flat. There's been, the PSR issues. They've not been able to invest in the same way in the last couple of years. But it's coming up to, 4 or 5 years since he's been at the club. He ranks one of the highest kind of points total average managers in the last 5 years. He has kept Newcastle competitive, got them into the Champions League very, very prematurely. Any criticism of Eddie Howe, this Newcastle side, I think is very, very harsh. If this Newcastle side had prime Mbappe, like a lot of people thought they were going to sign for 300 million quid, it's a different debate. But Newcastle look very, very balanced. Great win on the weekend. I think Newcastle United deserve a B because they just go right under the radar. They're in competition to be back into the Champions League / European football places. No debate. And that's down to Eddie Howe. Have to talk about Arsenal. Arsenal are 4th. They look decent against City. I know there was a sending off, but they competed well with City before the red card kind of ruined it, or Trossard ruined it. But 9 points behind Liverpool. Their whole game plan has been to kind of mirror City. I think kind of shadow in behind City. And when City slip, Arsenal be the ones that take over. They haven't factored that Liverpool have come with a whole different approach where Liverpool bully sides, they outmaneuver sides in a way that I don't think Arsenal are able to do with their front three. And the front three looks very, very lax. If it was the transfer strategy video, maybe I should do that on the channel. If it was a video about transfer strategy, I'd give them a D because they had to go out and get Isaac. They had to go out and get Gyökeres now, not in January, now. And I think they'd be top of the table if they had a top level striker. But they don't. They're 9 points off Liverpool. They're in the top 4 race. But Arsenal should be top of the table and bullying the league and saying this is now our league. As soon as City dropped off, Liverpool won the league for the first time in 31 years, a few years ago. Arsenal should be saying a similar narrative. I have to give them a C. Man City, this is really, really hard because City is second in the league. City are in a few points off Liverpool. City at the first 6 weeks of the season, dominating sides, outscoring sides, we're top of the table. But the last few weeks obviously bring the grade out of an A or even a B. It's been 4 losses in a row. A few of them obviously not in the Premier League. But it's been as bad as it's ever been since Stuart Pearce was the manager. And Stuart Pearce isn't qualified to be a manager. He was that bad. And Forest fans can tell you that as well, unfortunately. I had to give them a C plus, because it started. City are second. City are above 18 other sides in the Premier League table, but it's not been good enough to compete at the moment with Liverpool. And if Liverpool smash City in the next few weeks, then I'll do this video maybe around Christmas, and it'll be a D, because City should be able to compete a little bit better against Brighton, a little bit better against Bournemouth, and a few other results. So it's a little bit frustrating, because I think the playing side for City look a little bit stagnant, dare I say, a little bit in their 30s, a little bit past their prime. But City are second. I'm gonna go C for Manchester City, and then we've got Brentford to wrap up. Brentford have been absolutely fantastic yet again, and Mbeumo is one of the highest scorers in the Premier League. They've carried on massively without Ivan Toney, and I'm a huge fan of what Thomas Frank is able to do. So you have to give Brentford another B. What can you say about Brentford? They're just hanging in there every season. Then they exceeding expectations to a very, very high level. They play good football in their day as well. So you have to give Brentford a B. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Any standout clangers, you're going to have to shout me. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you very, very soon.